Hello there, I'm Silent Apollo and welcome to my Let's Play of Factorio Space Age, all achievements, no brains. This is episode 11 and in this one I built the spaceship for getting to Aquilo, beating the game and starting the journey towards the shattered planet, hopefully. This is the last blueprint I'll be making before I actually start the run, so stick with me, we're almost there. If you like this video, leave a like. If you want more, subscribe. Otherwise, you can share your thoughts in the comments. Righty-ho, potato. So the idea is to make this thing capable of flying from either Gleber or Fulgora to Aquilo, and then from Aquilo to the solar system edge, and then from the solar system edge out to at least somewhat towards the shattered planet. So we've got a few achievements. None of them say go all 4 million kilometers to the shattered planet. But there is one, ignore the ones that are completed, shattered. There is one for getting 60,000 kilometers, or 60 megameters, towards the shattered planet. So, yeah, we've got ideally, in this video, I'm going to try to make something that's capable of getting us all the way to those 60,000 clicks, which is about there on the graph. Looking at this, the 60,000 mark is about there. So, you know, it's not exactly... I don't know, hang on, that's 80. So, yeah, between there and there on this graph. So, you know, we don't really have to worry about that. But, yeah. So, we do have to worry about a large number of asteroid chunks. Promethium chunks do grow to, is that saying 12 per minute for each variant? Between, yeah, 12 per, is that meter? I said minute, I think it's meter. That's a lot. That's a lot of various asteroid chunks in a small amount of space. So, yeah. Definitely something to think about. Might be that this ship won't be capable of getting all the way to the 60,000 kilometer mark, but I'm going to try to get this design. Well, I'm going to try to keep this design for the most part because it's pretty clean. I just need to make sure that we're actually capable of dealing with the things that we need to deal with. Primarily that includes big metallic asteroid chunks. Sorry, big asteroid chunks, which they all have the same resistances. But essentially the most effective way of dealing with them is explosion damage. Up to that point, the largest thing we'd have to have dealt with was medium chunks, and they are least resistant to physical damage, which is why using turrets works so well on them. Big metallic asteroids have low resistance to explosion damage. Now, there are a few options to handle those. Rockets have 460 explosion damage at the moment, based on my current research level. In fact, let's unresearch red science and look at that value again. Hang on. They just have 200 explosion damage by default. Obviously researching various tiers into explosion useful, but other things that have explosion damage, explosive rockets, which only have 100 explosion damage, it's 50 plus 100, but an area of effect size of 6.5, so basically explosive rockets are useless. Yeah, see, this ship can't actually function at the basic tier of damage, so that's something to think about. We've run out completely on weapons, so yeah, we definitely need weapons damage research if we want to survive. Looks like I'm gonna have to load a save. Let's go back to here. Switch to this platform. Now the tech tree is back in action, so this won't die while I'm talking. It will, however, make a ton of noise, so let's zoom out. Back to the other options. Cannon shells, we can't shoot those in space. Although they do have 100 explosion, base explosion damage. But we can actually use landmines, which have by default per landmine 250, which is actually more, 50 more, than the rockets. Oh, that's interesting. At higher tiers of explosives damage, this is what, 660 damage, whereas landmines are 550. Right. 4 landmines cost 1 steel plate and 2 explosives, whereas 1 rocket costs an explosive and 2 iron plates. I think it's safe to say that rockets are still one of the better approaches. Maybe a combination of rockets and landmines? Interesting. A railgun does 10,000 physical damage by default. That's nice. But completely meaningless against these, which have these asteroids, which have a significant resistance. Hang on, what was it? Big ones. 2,000 physical resistance. 2,000%? That's a lot. Or is that 2,000 divided by... I don't really understand what this means. I think maybe if you pierce it, it's got 10% resistance. So, yeah. Railgun would work wonders against these. But, yeah, basically the only thing that works well against huge asteroids is going to be the railgun, because it can pierce through the 3,000 armor and hit that 10% resistance there. Obviously, with a base health of 5,000, that's definitely something. These have a base health of 10,000, so we need something that's slightly more damaging than 13,000 to kill huge Prometheum asteroids. I assume that's what that means. Imagine a legendary Prometheum asteroid coming at you. It's got 25,000 HP. That's not nothing. Let's be honest, that's not nothing. Anyway, all of that bickering and thinking say I kind of want to test what it happens if I were to put landmines there, and if it proves not so great, then I might just resort back to the rocket launchers. It was an explosion. Took out a chunk of stuff. But I was busy filtering out things so I could Youch. Okay, that's definitely a problem. Okay, well, as it is, yeah, no. Definitely not capable of making it. Okay. Good to know. Landmines really not as good as they advertised. Christ, do they take out? They take out so much of like the actual ship when they blow up. And that one's not even possible of, yeah, capable of dealing with that. Say goodbye to the entire right half of this ship. Okay. Hey, it eventually disappeared. So that is actually enough to take care of a large asteroid. But yeah, no, it's definitely not. This is definitely not going to work. Is my conclusion. Boom. Barely. No, I mean, the amount of resources that we had to use up, we've gone through way too much crap for that. Okay. And there it goes. Right, back to the drawing board. Boom. Right, what we really need to do is move all of this up here somewhere and then get started. Okay, is that in line? No. From there to about, excuse me, there. Get rid of the extra and then we fill this in. Keep misclicking. It's kind of a problem. But anyway. Let's see. You're supposed to, I believe, build all that for me when I paste it down. Okay. So experience tells me that I'm going to need to place my railguns as close to the outside of the ship as I can. For example, there and there. Not build on empty whatever. You're not building on empty space. Alright. Okay, so we've got the two railguns. One for left, one for the right. They reach out to about here, which is pretty decent. They can shoot basically anything and everything that gets in the way. Now the other thing we need is rocket launchers, and yeah, rocket launchers are a thing. And they're a thing because of their range, which is really annoying. Why can't I see it now? Here. You see that green radius is so far outside of the ship perimeter, but there's nothing, literally nothing we can do about it. So what I'm going to do is actually make a vertical line of these instead. No, we're gonna have to have, yeah, it's gonna have to be something like this. I don't know if that's gonna be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rocket launchers. I can always slow down the ship to account for that, but there's still so much space. Like, look at the radius on that. It goes all the way out here. There's no way we need to actually kill anything out here, but there's nothing, literally nothing I can do about that. Okay, is it even safer if we do this? I think think that is decent. 4 rocket launchers, and we just have to make sure that we can slow this thing down to a respectable, manageable speed. Okay. Strip that line. Strip that. Put those in. That's not doing anything. Yep. Only need one of those. For the sake of continuity, let's do it like that. And then this one's going to need a bulk inserter. A bulk inserter. Overridden down to 8. And then 2 fast inserters. One here and one here. Yeah, this combinator logic will have to change. I will copy it from the other blueprint again once I have it put together, but for the time being I will handle it like that. Now, are all the turrets getting fed? No, this one's missing. I want these to look at least somewhat deliberate. Okay. Nah, of course it's not symmetrical. Now, there is something else to think about with this ship. Well, firstly, we need to actually supply it with the rockets to launch for the launchers, and we need a new power generation mechanism because solar panels out in space, especially towards Aquilo, like out in deep space, start becoming mostly meaningless. Solar panel in space here is 40% less efficient, or only produces 60% of what it would on Novice actual. And then I'm guessing that it sort of, there we go, I'm guessing that it sort of goes from the 200 down, or the 120 down. Yeah, so from here to here goes from 200% down to 120%, and then from 120% all the way down to half that by the time we reach Aquilo. So yeah, having something to counteract the low amount of power that we're gonna have is gonna be, well, unavoidable. We're gonna need to do that. And the best power generation mechanism that I can think of is nuclear power, which of course I want this one. When this thing is consuming roughly 4 megawatts. No, this thing is probably gonna need to consume more than that, isn't it? These will definitely consume more than that. Probably about, oh no, this thing can produce 3.4 megawatts while around Novice. And that's about right. So maybe a different power generation mechanism. Can we place normal boilers on here? Nope. I don't think so. The pressure is too low. Yep. How about heating towers? Pressure is too low. Nope. So we literally can only go for nuclear power at this point. There's no other option. That is our best option. Cannot be built on a surface without lightning, and of course there's no lightning in space. So yeah, our only option is nuclear. So I'm gonna have to squeeze this in somewhere. And that means also getting water, like this, again. This produces 20 per second water, and one of these consumes 10. So we could technically afford 2 of these heat exchangers on one chemical plant. However, we don't need that much power, I don't think. Yeah, we only need technically 1 steam turbine to keep this entire ship afloat. Although I will make 2 just for the sake of it. But we've got all this space in here, which we can replace with nuclear power. If I play my cards right. So we put that in. Excuse me. Oh, I'm in remote view for some reason. Put that in there. Rip that out, put that in, and then we switch this override stack size to 1, and then we say in here. Oh no, I'm going to need a combinator logic again. So there's 2 conditions, so we need something that can handle 2 conditions, which means a slider combinator. Put that there. So I'm going to say if temperature, which is always written on T, is less than was it 550, and fuel in the system is 0, and we read that from there. We read the temperature and we read the fuel, so both of these are ticks. T is now 15, and then when that's the case, we output a signal, and the signal we're going to output is this one, set to 1. Enable disable when this is, hang on, yeah, when that is 1 is greater than 0, enable that. Cool. And this one just pulls out, we could make a filter if we wanted to, but this one just pulls out the used up fuel cells. Now I do realize, actually, looking at this, that I'm not making this particularly space efficient, but I'm thinking if I put a heat exchanger directly on here, I think that works, because that's where the heat interface is. And then I need to fill water in here, and then the steam needs to power a turbine. I still want to power all of these, so I'm going to have to move everything here down a few notches. For the time being, let's put it all the way down here. And then later on, I can move those around. Tell you what, let's get this. Place it here as well. Get rid of that. Move those up there. Okay. Now we need to feed this with water, which I'm going to copy this design for. And there's no space for it, of course. Let's take a look. We've got this. We could put in here if only there was space for it. So what I'm going to do instead is this, I think, which pulls that off there and then filter those into there. Then I might move this up. Let's see. Oh, I needed this. Copy. That goes here, like so. Yes. Can we move it up too? Can. That'll save a bit of space. This produces 103 steam per second. And these guys consume, oh, there it is, 60 steam per second. So yeah, having 2 of these is plenty. Don't need any of that. Apparently, that's it. That's all I need to produce 20 water per second. This thing consumes 10 water per second. But can produce 10 megawatts, which is far more than we need on the ship as it is at the moment. Obviously, we're going to add more production, so it's possible that I need to use up a second boiler here, which means I will be using up all 20 water. Honestly, I think it's actually a good idea to use up all the water. So let's do that. So awkward. Shame, what a shame. I think it's still safest to move this up. Get rid of that. I can't press all the buttons, apparently. There we go. And we put heat pipe in here, just to be absolutely certain. That we transfer the heat correctly, and then I can put the pipes in here. Make that look neat. And then we've got 2 more of these, which we could cut like this. And that's power. Obviously, we could put solar panels in there, and accumulators in there. Or, even better, more solar panels. Like so. Nice. Right. Back to dealing with the rest of the problem, which is bring this. Now, I've realized, actually thinking about it, that I don't want to use these anymore. And this system, basically this entire system is going to change, because we're not going to be making ammo like that anymore. So this can stay. In fact, I think it should stay as is. Iron ore in this machine is only going to be used to make the fuel. Okay. Let's temporarily strip all that out. Obviously, I'm going to need to add a few more solar panels before the end. But this is the space I've got to work with in terms of crafting gun turret ammo and rocket ammo. So let's see what we need. Let's work our way backwards. So for rocket ammo, we need explosives and iron plates. We can make iron plates by casting iron, which is my plan. So if we use a foundry to cast iron, we're going to need molten iron, which takes a lot of iron ore and a tiny bit of calcite. Okay, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe I do want to change this up a little. So I'm going to need calcite, which can be picked up from advanced ice melting. So if I change this recipe to the advanced one, what happens if we block up on calcite here? But there's not enough ice to keep this machine going, is it? No. So we didn't want to do that. Just wanted to change this recipe back. We still need the ice quantity from this to keep these fully powered up. So we're going to need to make a completely separate line for this, I think. Yeah, let's do this from scratch on its own elsewhere. So like that, and then we grab one of these, which I can't put anywhere. Let's put it here. And what this is going to do is advanced metallic asteroid crushing, which gives us 10 iron and 4 copper. Let's do this one first, because we are after the oxide chunks from that. Now hang on. We could feed the ice up, couldn't we? We could certainly feed the ice up. Did I do this correctly? So let's do this correctly then. Ooh, grab this. Like so. Pick it up from there. No. Yes, pick it up from there, put it onto there. And what are we putting on? We are putting on oxide chunks, and the recipe is going to be that one. This one we're going to filter out only ice, and that's going to get fed into there. And this one's making 0.66 ice per second, so we're hoping, I'm hoping at least, 20. The ice produced from this is enough to power here. How do I make sure that this one only comes on if there's no ice in here? Like so, I think. No. Read contents. Reads the content of the machine. Ingredients, products, trash lots, and items, fluids in crafting as well. Okay. If I have the in crafting recipe on. So let's turn including crafting off this time. Just say ice. Enable, disable if ice is less than, no, is equal to 0. So basically we only take ice out of here if there's no ice in here. Otherwise we take ice from here. That makes sense to me. And then the calcite can be used in the ore chunk. In the ore chunk. What am I saying? I want to put a foundry down so that I can pick up the iron chunks from this. Now hang on. Do I need copper? Do I need any copper at all? Oh, I need to make... I forgot. I also need to make railgun ammo. Definitely want to make railgun ammo. And that takes copper cable. So I will need a little bit of copper. The railgun ammo. So... I'm thinking... Can you tell that I'm thinking? Put this here. So that's making iron and copper. So we put copper in here. And that's fine. And the iron in here. The calcite comes in there. We also need calcite for that one. We don't need that much calcite, right? So, what do we do? This one needs to filter out metallic chunks back onto the belt. And in fact, I'm going to do that this way up so that we can pick them off straight away and feed them back in. So, how do we get calcite down here? I could just do this. And then filter Calcite. Come on. I know you're here somewhere. There you are. Okay, that didn't cost me too much. So now we've got molten copper and molten iron. 100 per second, in fact, assuming that I think I need to make this like so. Oh no, this thing only produces 2.2 iron per second, and we're consuming 6.25. I don't need that much copper, so I'm fine with the copper coming in from this. Now on the other hand, I'm gonna need more iron than this. Then maybe I should do something here. And then move all of this up a couple. I can only move it up one because I need that still to connect. Then this one takes iron ore. Wrong button. Slides up there. Not enough space again. Okay. I need to output what comes there, the extra materials from here. Okay, okay. So if I'm taking iron, come on, think, this one. It goes in there. That's all very nice and cool. But how do I make sure that the excess ore chunks don't block this thing up? To try and feed them from this one into this one. If I did that vertically instead. Yeah, okay. Okay. Then we would have to make sure that we empty this one all the time. No, let's not overcomplicate this. This is already crazy enough as it is. I need to put this belt in. How do I get the excess materials off of here? I think with a long-handed inserter facing down and then going into there. Or we could have it doing that. It really doesn't matter either way. And that needs to filter one of these. Okay. So that's picking up metallic asteroids. That's picking up metallic asteroids. That's feeding copper into here and iron into here. And that's feeding just iron into here. Should be plenty. So I'm going to only enable this if the iron ore chunks are less than, let's say, 40. No, 50. Because this one is going to be constantly feeding it 2.2 per second, whereas this one will feed it 11. Well, it won't, because this thing's only capable of transporting a less than 11, but it's fine, it's fine. So we get the iron ore from here going into here. Nice. Calcite going into here. That makes the iron. Nice. And then this is a lane that holds all the materials. Went up. We're outputting from here. We're outputting from here all the extra bits and pieces. Calcite. And how are we dealing with ice? Ice is being turned into power. What if this backs up? If this backs up, let's read all the contents. Is capable of spitting things out into space. Yes. This would be the space. So if that's the thing. Ah, but what if calcite backs up and we need power? Oh, then we get it from here. Yeah, okay. But if we have no calcite in there, and so let's read all contents there. We've got 1, 2, 3 belts, which can each hold 4 or 2 pieces of ice. Hang on. More ice. Give me ice. So what's the ice? 10. I counted 10. Let's just put ice there. No. Just stop that for now. I want to put ice in here. Cool. What are we reading? 11. 9, 10, 11. Okay. So we enable this if ice is greater than 10. We filter out ice only. Cool. And it's a lot more complicated. Like, there's constant circuit network nonsense going on, but it's okay. So that should be balanced. That should ensure that we get a constant throughput up here. And that's kind of the most important point. Now all of this is here to make sure that we can actually produce. Let's put the copper cable down the bottom because we can. This one is going to make copper cable. That's it. Okay, so that's the copper cable that we need for the 1 or 2 of these that are going to be making railgun ammo. Can't quite squeeze that in, huh? Let's put them in here. Ooh. Like so for now. That obviously needs explosives and steel plates. Steel plates we can get from this fairly easily, so well, we do need space there. I also know that we need iron plates though, so we get iron plates. Iron plates. Iron plates, I think we're going to get rid of that and put steel plates here. And then we just have a line of pipes connecting those up. Oh look, solar panel fits in there. Okay, so we've got the iron plates we need to make basic ammo. And we've got the steel plates we need for the railgun ammo. Was it rockets? Yeah, rockets take iron plates. And railguns take steel plates, copper cable, and the other thing we need to make is explosives, which take coal, sulfur, and water. So we're going to need to make another water mixer. And we're going to need quite a bit of it. Okay. We also need somewhere to actually craft the things. So all the time, actually no. What I'm going to do now is use these. They're just so good. Yeah, a little bit of a shame about the spacing here. But I think it still makes the most sense. We've got that being output there, that being output there. And then we've got steel and copper wire on one belt. And then I'm going to need iron plates on another belt. Whether or not that's enough iron plates is anyone's guess. But I think the point I need to get behind is I need more space again. So let's just expand that out a little bit. So and so. Right, that's where iron plates come down. And that iron plate machine is gonna be melting into, being manufactured into, and I think by now we'll have assembling machine 3s, so I'm gonna use those to make firearm magazines. And in fact, we're still going to use these. So, take iron plates in, and we put... It makes 3.75, that consumes 5. So technically speaking... That's a full ratio there. Sorry, I was just counting the iron plates. So it takes 25 molten iron for each one of these recipes. That's 50, 75, and an extra 37 is 102.5. And this thing makes 93.7. So that's roughly the correct balance. Mind you, that's assuming that this thing gets fed at max rate, and assuming that we consume at max rate as well. Anyway, the point is that we're making 3, 6, 9, 10 and a bit iron plates per minute, which means we can have 2 of these at a maximum. And then they need to be outputting somewhere, but we also need to remember that we're producing, that we need to make these. Take 0.25 steel, 0.1, basically nothing, because it takes so long to make, so we need quite a few of these. I'm going to stick that one here, here, here. Railguns. And we're going to feed that from those. I know. How do I get copper wire to this first one? It's not going to work. Change of plan, I think. Yeah. Nice, I like it. Let's move that elsewhere. So we can put this as far to the left as that. I think that's good. And then we can move this here, here, and here. That's 3 of these, but we're going to need a few more than that. So what I'm going to do is move this in here like that. Oh, but of course we also need explosives. So, what the hell do I do with this layout? It's awkward as hell, isn't it? And that also works. Unless I just accept that I need to merge these. Maybe I don't do it like this. Maybe I do this instead. Yeah, that makes more sense. And then I get myself some assembling machine 2s. I can fit 4 in quite nicely in this ship. Now we don't have a particularly wide ship, so that might be enough. We take. We also need to take. Hang on. Let's see. We take explosives from there and there, and then we put. No. Yeah? No. We take explosives from the farther belt. Or maybe we don't even take it from a belt. Maybe we just feed it directly. Set the recipe. Because these consume 0.1 explosives per second. How many explosives does one of these make? 0.5. So technically one of these is enough to feed all 4 of these machines. And in fact I'm going to make 5 machines just to get that ratio correct. Seeing as we've got more than enough steel and copper wire to deal with that. That can feed that. That can go there. This is output. Which I'm going to put like that. Because of this. And then that's an explosives maker, which takes various resources. But the beauty of it is that I can put it in here. Excuse me. In here. Feeding that explosives. At a perfect ratio, okay? So it takes 0.25 coal, 0.25 sulfur, and a bit of water to make 0.5 per second explosives, and these consume exactly 0.5 per second explosives. So that's all I need to get the railgun ammo operational, except that I need to make those bits. And of course, I also need rocket ammo. So let's take a look at that. What do we need to make rocket ammo? 4 explosives. It takes 0.31 per rocket. Okay. So technically it's one of these. Well, if I have 2 of these, that'd be 0.1 per second. That would be 3 of these. So I could make, if I have 2 rocket, if I have 2 explosives producers feeding into a line of rocket factories, I could have 3 rocket factories. So that's 0.1 almost, and that's 0.1. Okay. And then the iron plates would come in. 0.62. We're making quite a few more than that. So that's nice. I can actually move all of these over to that line of iron, unless I do it like this. Unless I do it like this. I don't know, because I also need to remember to make space for the basic ammo producers. So I think this is actually... no, because we still need the coal and the sulfur as well. Why is it so tricky? Okay, well, you know, one thing at a time. Let's get the coal and the sulfur built, and then we can hook these up with the iron that we need later. So, coal, sulfur, and water. To get sulfur in space, we have this. Advanced carbonic asteroid chunk producer. So let's place a crusher down and see what we get. We get 2 sulfur and 5 carbon. Two sulfur and 5 carbon. 5 carbon. How do we get coal from this? I know there's a way. Unless there's another recipe for explosives. No. There's definitely a way of getting coal out here. Coal, burned in, gathered from, coal synthesis. 5 carbon, 1 sulfur, and 10 water. Right. So I think we need to do that in one of these. This recipe, coal synthesis. Okay. So let's see here. 5 carbon, 2 sulfur turns into 1 coal, 1 sulfur. Technically 1 coal and 2 sulfur. Five carbon and 2 sulfur turns into 1 coal and 2 sulfur. No, 1 coal and 1 sulfur. So it's a 1-to-1. Nice, and that makes 0.5 per second of sulfur and coal. No, of just coal. Which means that we can take the sulfur from this thing and put it in there. Take the coal from this machine and put it in there as well. To a perfectly balanced ratio. Is there a way of setting this up? In such a way we can feed both of these from both of these. Hang on. I think this is all feeling very familiar. Give me a second. I'm going to just take a quick blueprint of this. Let's duplicate this. Name this Space Transport 2. Select new contents. Grab all of that. Save it. Now if I go back to old blueprints in space, take a look at this beast. I have in here somewhere this recipe. So we get the 1 sulfur from here, the 1 coal from here. And that's interesting. Okay. Delete all of that. And grab that other blueprint again. That one was wider than this one. Okay. Scrap all of these. Fine, leave it. Paste. Let's take a look. I see. 0.7, 1.76. Yeah, so this is perfectly balanced in terms of how quickly this produces, and that's with speed 1. Hang on. let's take out all this extra nonsense. Produces 1.1 carbon, consumes 2.5 carbon. Consumes 0.25 sulfur, produces 0.44. 0.25, 0.25. Right, okay. So to keep this running at max speed, we need to do this on both sides. Like so. Correct? 1.1, 0.5. From both sides that would be 2.2. Yeah. And that's to keep this running at max rate, which would be 0.5. Now we wanted 2 of these. Feed 3 of these. And in fact, we want 3 of these all together. So for 3 of these machines, we're going to need 6 of these and 3 of these. Okay. We're learning. We're learning. So let's put this here. Let's put this here, here, and here. We can feed all of this with belts. I think it's going to be much more straightforward than trying to mix and match here, so get rid of that, don't need it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move all of those over here. Remember that we want 3 of those. And then take a look at this again. Sulfur and coal in here. This thing's making coal. Also takes sulfur. We're going to have sulfur. Might be easier. If we have these 2 feeding this one, these 2 feeding this one, and these 2 feeding this one. Let's move this up. No, down. Yeah, it's got to stay there. This one needs to move up 1. That's just going to feed it carbon and sulfur, and then the excess sulfur goes up north. Little confusing, but it should be okay. So, we feed this from these 2, that from these 2, and that from these 2, and then this excess sulfur comes out here, 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 and here. Yeah, be fine using that. Okay, so filter out sulfur on a belt. Then this is going to feed that. No, it's not. It's going to feed those. And then this is going to put out coal. We're putting sulfur on the left-hand side of this line, which means I can put coal here. And take everything from here. And we can put like so and like so. Obviously this needs to move up 1. Or maybe it's not that obvious. And then this needs to go down here. And then I need to take it underground like so, and like so. The reason for the underground is that I can hook these up with pipes. And then the only thing missing is to hook this up like that. I'm gonna move all of these up one. For a couple of reasons. Primarily because I need to output stuff here. And the stuff I need to output here is space carbonic. In fact, I'll do this. Copy it, paste, 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 and paste. Nice. This is that line that goes up. Okay, and then these, well. Alright. I never output this. Like that. I will put a circuit condition on those. The other thing I wanted to do, actually, was make more space for myself, because I still need to make basic ammo. And, right, well, like 5.5. It's enough to fuel. Tell you what, let's prioritize. Let's prioritize here. Let's first feed these with the explosives that they need, and then we'll feed the rocket launchers, the rocket producers. So hang on, I'm going to need more vertical space, which means cutting this out again and pasting it down here. I think, hang on, what do these need? Sulfur and carbon, which we're getting from there. Okay. They're outputting coal and sulfur, and that's it. Coal, sulfur. We also need water in here. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this layout. It's a little bit irritating, but it's fine. Okay, and then we feed that like so. The reason it's irritating is because I'm going to need to put explosives on a separate belt line that goes up. This comes down from there. This goes up to there. This goes into, excuse me, there, without that. Okay. So this is explosives, and that's iron plates. And I wanted to feed these with the explosives they need before I feed the rocket launchers. So let's put that up. Let's put the rocket launchers there, and then we can put the iron plates on the other side of this line, can't we? Like so. There we go. So explosives are coming in, iron plates are coming in, and that's all we need to make these. Like so. And then that we will output on its own belt here. I keep pressing that because I need 3 there. So that goes here, up, up, left. Nice. And of course the only thing missing now is the 2 basic ammo producers. Like so. And they should get fed from the same belt as the iron plates, which are coming in there. And they feed that belt. I think that's all. In fact, I'm going to move this here and replace this like so. That's it. That's all we need, right? So I can shrink this back again. Excuse me. By stripping all of that away and pasting it down. Oh, that's what went wrong. Okay, there. It's the best I can do, right? And that needs to go under, like that. Just to check everything. I will have to fire this thing up and make sure it's all working right. Yeah, so we definitely need to put the modules in here. The reason I'm only putting 2 efficiency modules is because more than that is completely meaningless. And the reason for that is because if you look at this, the minimum energy consumption of any factory is 20% if you read the description. And each of these reduce the energy consumption by 40%. So 2 of these together is enough to fully make these fully efficient. I could speed this up if I needed to with speed modules as well, and then add another efficiency module, but I think, or at least I hope, that this is plenty. Come on, efficiency, module 2s. I know I could have used copy and paste, or even a upgrade planner. But instead I'm doing it manually. So what I need to do now is copy this. Delete this. And delete that. And then paste. Flip horizontally. Paste there. 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 Figures there'd be a belt in the way of that bottom turret. Let's place that and get rid of that. And if I've got that one, I don't need these. It's plenty anyway, as it stands. Okay, we paste it again, except on this side. We can't feed these turrets. We can feed these turrets, so I'm going to switch that up to here. Paste again, no, paste this blueprint into here and here. And again, we're dealing with a turret feeding issue. These 2 are fine, so we're just going to have to move these down to here. Feed them like so. That's it. And we just seal this up. And seal this up. Is that right? I think so. And then close that, close that. And the last pieces of this puzzle are definitely going to be the circuit network. Okay. Up next, feed that in. That should be everything. Iron, iron, iron. Nice. Oh, right, of course. That's not doing anything. Feeding, that one's got teething issues. Pull that in, okay. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I think this can feed that. Cool. This can feed that. Cool. This one, however, can't. It's not the most optimal, but I think I'm going to unbalance this. Just so that I can have that a grabber at least in here, even if it's not quite filling in the gaps. You can see that there's a gap in there, but again, it'll be fine. It's a little bit unbalanced, but I don't mind. That one's feeding in. That one's feeding in. Feeding in. Feeding in. Feeding in. Feeding in. Feeding in. Nice. Thank you for sticking with me through that mess. Next up, I'll be adding circuit logic and testing this ship, and then once all of this is done and the blueprint's ready, that'll be it. That'll be the last bit of preparation I need to do before the run, and then I can finally get started. So stick with me, we're almost there, we're almost ready. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.